The waiter's hand froze midair when she walked in. Heads turned, conversations faltered, even the soft jazz playing in the luxury restaurant seemed to hush for a moment. Her clothes were tattered, her shoes worn out, and her hair tied back in a loose, messy bun. She clutched an old handbag close to her chest like it carried her whole life inside. The maitre d' approached hesitantly, clearly unsure if she'd walked into the wrong place. But she didn't flinch. She scanned the tables until her eyes landed on him. Ethan Cole, 32, billionaire CEO of Cole Enterprises. Impeccably dressed in a dark navy suit, gold cufflinks gleaming under the light, and an expression that made even seasoned executives tremble. Yet, the moment their eyes met, something changed in him. Her name was Lena Brooks, and though she looked like she'd lost everything, she carried a quiet strength that silenced judgment faster than money ever could. Lena hesitated before approaching his table. She almost turned around and ran, but then she remembered the promise she'd made to her late mother: don't let shame steal your chances, no matter how small they are. The blind date had been arranged by her best friend, who'd insisted Lena needed to meet someone who would make her smile again. She didn't know the man would be that Ethan Cole, the CEO she used to work for before everything in her life had fallen apart. He stood up politely, confusion flickering across his eyes for a second before warmth replaced it. "Lena," he asked gently, as if saying her name too loudly would break her. "Yes," she whispered, clutching her handbag tighter. I'm sorry. I didn't realize the restaurant would be this fancy. I can leave." "Sit," he interrupted softly, pulling out the chair for her. "Please." For a few long minutes, neither spoke. She stared down at the tablecloth, ashamed of how out of place she looked. The waiter hovered nervously until Ethan waved him off. Finally, he spoke. "You don't have to pretend," he said quietly. "I'm just glad you came." She looked up, her eyes glistening. "You don't even know me." "Maybe not," he said, smiling faintly. "But something tells me I'd like to." As the evening went on, Ethan didn't ask about her clothes or why her hands trembled when the waiter poured water. He asked about her favorite books, her dreams as a child, and the little bakery she'd once dreamed of opening. Slowly, her nervousness melted away. But deep down, Lena battled guilt. She wasn't supposed to be here. She hadn't told him that she'd once worked at one of his companies as a nurse for his mother, before medical bills and debt had destroyed her life. She hadn't told him she'd been homeless for nearly 2 months now, sleeping at a women's shelter after losing her apartment. Every word she spoke felt like a lie by omission. When the bill came, she tried to excuse herself early, murmuring something about catching the last bus. Ethan insisted on walking her out. Outside, the night air was cold, and her thin jacket did little to protect her. He noticed her shivering and immediately took off his own coat, draping it over her shoulders. "Ethan, I can't." "You can," he said softly. "And you will. You deserve warmth." Her throat tightened. "You don't even know what I deserve." He looked at her, his gaze unwavering. "Then tell me, help me understand." And in that moment, something broke inside her. She told him everything: the hospital bills, her mother's passing, the eviction, the nights she'd gone hungry. She expected pity or awkward silence. But all she saw was respect. When she finished, he said only one thing: "You didn't lose everything, Lena. You held on to your dignity. That's rarer than gold." Days turned into weeks. Ethan began showing up at the shelter, not as a CEO, but as a man bringing boxes of food, blankets, and supplies. He talked to the women there, listened to their stories. But it was Lena he sought most often, though never in a way that made her feel small. He offered her a job, not out of charity, but because she'd once been one of the kindest, most capable nurses his mother had ever praised. At first, she refused. "I can't accept that because you feel sorry for me." "I don't," he said simply. "I'm offering because I trust you. And because I believe in second chances." Working for him again was strange at first. She kept her distance, afraid of the whispers that followed, the CEO's new favorite, the charity case. But Ethan didn't care about gossip. He treated her with quiet kindness, introducing her to his team as the best decision I've made this quarter. Slowly, Lena began to rebuild her life. She rented a small apartment, bought new clothes, smiled more often, but Ethan noticed something else: her heart. He fell in love not with her beauty, though she was breathtaking when she smiled, but with her resilience, her humility, the way she looked at the world with gratitude even after being broken by it. Then came the challenge that tested everything. When investors discovered Ethan's growing relationship with a woman who'd once been homeless, they called an emergency meeting. They warned him that associating with her would tarnish the company's reputation. Ethan listened quietly, and then he stood up, his voice calm but firm. "If my company's reputation depends on judging someone's worth by their bank account," he said, "then it's not a company worth keeping." He walked out that day, and the board followed him, because respect commands loyalty. That night, he found Lena outside the hospital where she volunteered part-time. She looked surprised to see him. "You left everything?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I didn't lose anything that mattered," he said, taking her hands. "I found you." Months later, they stood together in a small, sunlit bakery, her dream finally alive. The scent of fresh bread filled the air, and the sign above the door read Second Chances Bakery. Ethan leaned against the counter, flour dusting his sleeves, watching her laugh as she served the first customer. She turned to him, eyes shining. "Do you ever regret that night? That blind date?" He smiled. "It was the first night I saw real beauty, not in clothes or status, but in courage." She reached for his hand. "And I found out that sometimes, love doesn't care what you wear, it only cares who you are."